Welcome back to another powerful episode of the Service First podcast, where we explore the power of putting a commitment to others first in business and in life. Join us as we sit down with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and everyday people who are making a positive impact through their commitment to service. Get ready to be inspired, learn from the best, and discover how you too can put service first. So, Service First Podcast, Episode 4 with Tracey Joralemon. Is that pronounced correctly?
Joralemon, yes.
Yeah, I guess I should know this by now.
You would think.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Have you ever done a podcast before?
No, haven't even really, not like listening, not one of those hardcore.
You don't listen to any podcasts?
No, only the ones, Joe makes me listen to.
Right.
Or suggests strongly that I listen to.
Mm-hmm. It's voluntary.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, most of the time.
Oh, good to know for the future.
Well, yeah, so, we talked a little bit already about, what we hope to accomplish with this, but basically just hoping that, we get to learn your story and, what's brought you through a career in the service industry to where we are now. And, we'll usually talk for an hour or so and try to learn as much as we can about you. So
awesome. Buckle up, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna be a bumpy ride.
Wild ride, baby. Well, yeah, so I guess just to get started, you go as far back as you want to, but
okay.
I've known you for a long time, and I've never really heard your whole story. So excited to hear, whatever you feel like sharing.
I know. I just tell it on a need-to-know basis, know.
I guess I don't need to know.
I grew up in New Jersey. I am one of 5 children. I have 4 siblings. I'm 4th in line. I have 3 older brothers.
It's like my mom. My mom's 4th out of 5.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm the first daughter, so pretty much walk on water as far as my parents were concerned. But then I was thought I was a boy, so I was a real tomboy. So then she had to pop out another girl so she can have her little princess, which is my sister. And I don't know, just grew up really middle class, suburbs of Jersey, blue collar really, which is so full circle that right. Now that I work for blue collar company.
What did your parents do?
My dad worked for the local Parks and Rec department, just maintenance.
Cool.
And my mom was a bookkeeper for a concrete company. And so yeah, grew up in Jersey, just typical childhood.
What part, was it rural New Jersey or in the city?
It was a suburb of Trenton. Trenton's the hood, but we were on the other side of the hood. There was a street that we were not allowed to cross.
Wow.
That's my dad's rules, but of course I always crossed it.
Yeah, you're not much of a rule follower.
No, I like to push the boundaries.
Okay, so pretty close to it, city style.
Yes, definitely.
Lifestyle.
Yes, for sure. And I don't know, went to college, local college there right after, and changed my major 3-4 times within the first 2 years. So then I was okay, time out, let's figure out what I'm going to do. So I started working at customer service at this educational testing service. They do the SAT testing and just answering phones, customer service kind of stuff. And my friend that I grew up with, my best friend, Rachel, was living out here in Jackson. She moved out here with her boyfriend. So I came to visit her in the winter. It was just awesome. So much fun. I'd never even heard of Wyoming or Jackson, whatever. But we had a blast. So then the job I had was temporary. In the summer, I didn't work because there's no testing.
No SATs.
Exactly. So we had this idea that I would come live with her for the summer and I did that, and that was 29 years ago. Never left.
So that was like early 90s,
Yeah, 94.
94.
Right. Because she came to my brother's wedding, and then we drove back together cross country.
And you stayed.
And yes, I was only going to stay for the summer, but then it was just, I loved it.
What hooked you?
What didn't hook me is the question. Like, I mean, the mountains, like, this is just so opposite of where I grew up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you had an upbringing around like a mountain.
No,
like
I
a
wasn't
mountain
like,
town,
ooh,
resort
outdoor,
town, like
love
big
this.
snowboarder or
Exactly.
anything.
Not at all. Like, hiking? No. Like, maybe
Hiking
from
around
bar
Trenton.
hopping was called bar hiking. But I don't know. It just was just a feeling, just a vibe. I'm like so big on vibes and like energy. And I just knew that like this was like where I needed to be.
What did you start out doing in Jackson? Did you immediately work in restaurants?
Yes, I did. That was like pretty much what everybody did. Mm-hmm. Like, because it's just like tourist town and service industry based. And I mean, a lot of people, like my friends, like worked in restaurants, but then also like we had that group of people that were like hardcore skiers and worked in like ski shops.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about skiing. So I was like, all right, I know customer service. I can deal with that.
So it was like retailer restaurants, and you chose restaurants.
Yeah, I'd shoot myself if I did retail.
Right.
So I started working at the Wart as a host, and then I like moved to like breakfast server there. But I worked there for like a year and a half, and I got fired.
Oh boy!
For my attitude of all things. Can you?
Who could imagine?
I mean, what?
Yeah,
Excuse me?
I would never expect that.
But I just like clashed with the manager there, and it just didn't work out, obviously. But the like hire manager of the Wart, he like loved me, so he like wrote me like a great recommendation letter. So after that, I mean, that was like the off season ish that I got fired in like October. So I started working at Bubba's as a baker. But this was like before Joe owned it. It was like in the old location, Bubba's. And I would like go in at like 5:30, bake the pies and the biscuits. And I think I lasted like 2 weeks.
Oh, jeez.
It was like just not conducive.
You just didn't like working in the kitchen, or
no,
early mornings, or what?
Mornings.
Oh.
I mean, Jackson back in the day was just like party central. It's like every night of the week there was like a set place you go to. I was like in my early 20s, of course I'm going there.
Right.
And I mean, we would like be partying until 2, 3, and then I'd have to be to work at 5:30.
God.
Yeah, it was brutal. So I was like, nah.
So that obviously wasn't going to last.
That was not for me. So it was like November, and my mom and sister and brother were coming to visit. So I just was like unemployed for like November. There wasn't anybody really open anyway. Back then, like a lot of the restaurants closed for like the off season. So it was fun. My mom came to visit, and I like now in hindsight think it was like what is that called? Reconnaissance mission? Like,
to check in
I'm
on
sure
you.
she was like, what the fuck is going on? This girl is unemployed, living in Wyoming. What the hell? But she saw that everything's good. I'm happy. So then I walked into Mary Piglet's and asked if they were hiring. Gave my like glowing letter of recommendation from Dana, and this guy James was the manager at the time, and he hired me on the spot. And
to do what?
Waitress. And back then it was like Mary Piglet's was only, I don't know if anybody listening is familiar with Piglet's, but the back room where the booths are, like that was the entire restaurant.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I was like, sweet, I can handle this.
Yeah, there's like 4 tables.
Yeah.
Good to go.
So yeah, I started working there, and I just loved it. Like Joe and Denise are from Jersey. It was just kind of like meant to be.
Yeah.
Like,
What were some of like the early memories of working at Mary Piglet's, other than the fact that it was like a one-room restaurant?
just like Joe and Denise worked there. Like they were like hands-on. You know, Denise would come prep, like, and then like and the kids were around. Like I just loved like the family aspect of it.
And were they living above the restaurant at that time?
No,
Or was that before you
that
started?
was before me.
Okay.
Yeah, James was living in the apartment upstairs. But yeah, I don't know, just like it was like a lot of locals would come in. I just loved the feel of it. Like family oriented, like so many old school locals coming in to get their cheese crisps.
Had they opened Blue Moon Diner at that
Not
time?
yet.
Okay.
They were working on it though.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I remember like I didn't know Joe that much. Like he's like scary, right? Because he's just
Totally.
like so like, but he's actually not scary people. That's all just a mirage. But like I was like a little intimidated.
Yeah.
And then I started in December and we had our like Christmas party,
boy.
employee party.
Good way to get to know Joe.
No doubt. But it was like just the number of employees we had were like 12.
Right.
Like back then, our employee party was we went to Nani's, this Italian restaurant for like Joe bought out the place and we would just go have dinner there and that's like just let loose. And that's when I like really got to know Joe and he just was like hilarious. Like and Denise too,
Yeah.
of course. And so yeah, then I was like, oh, I dig these people. I'm going to stick this job out. And yeah, and then I started like babysitting, got to know the kids. And that's like the girl that was managing, she was like the server and a manager. She was also working, that's like Blue Moon opened like 2 months later. And she was like working there, but I can't remember. There was some drama. There's always drama in the restaurant business. But like she got fired. So then Joe was like, do you want to be like server manager and like do the schedule? I was like, damn, okay.
Promotion.
I'm moving up quick.
Yeah.
So, there was literally like 5 employees. So I was like, I think I can handle this. So then I started doing that, but I was still waiting tables, but then I'd like get a like little extra money, like a paycheck actually. So from unemployed like a few months before to that, I was like rolling in it.
Right.
And then, I don't know, I just like, Blue Moon Diner didn't work out. We don't really talk about that. But then Joe opened up Sidewinders after that. But I was just strictly Mary Piglet's.
But there was a period of time where Sidewinders and Blue Moon Diner overlapped,
Yes.
right? Like they were open
That,
simultaneously.
Like Sidewinders was on half of the building, like the bar. And then Blue Moon Diner still kind of had tables on the other side.
Yeah, that was before I even moved to Jackson, but the way that I understand it is like Sidewinders kind of like absorbed
Yes,
Blue Moon Diner
100%.
more or less, right?
Because it was like Sidewinders is taking off, Blue Moon's like it's just
Struggle.
is not working.
Yeah.
So then Joe's like, okay, he's like a visionary. He's like, let's just change it, and that's the kitchen now, the Sidewinders, and Sidewinders just expands into that area.
Yeah, I think that is a good point. One thing that is almost kind of hard to define about them, Joe in particular, nothing against Denise whatsoever, but like he's willing to kind of go and have these like crazy ideas and just say, yeah, I don't know, we'll just figure it out, like
Yeah.
so, like who would think like, yeah, Blue Moon Diner is just going to kind of become the food part of Sidewinders and just figure it out.
Totally. Yeah, he does fly by the seat of his pants sometimes, but it's like always like not, it looks like it's that, but I think he actually has a master plan.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, maybe.
Well, I don't even know if he would define it that way, but I think, in the grand scheme of things, like there's, there's maybe more intention behind some of those decisions than we realize.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you like that about like working in their, in their company, that it was just kind of like not chaotic, but like unpredictable, I guess, in some ways?
Yes. Loved it. Like, I thrive in chaos.
So by your second month at Mary Piglets, you're the manager.
Server manager.
Okay, excuse me, your title. And that lasted a long time.
It did. I mean, I outlasted all the other managers, and I say it in quotations. Like Dwayne, he was like the kitchen manager, but oversaw everything. But I outlasted them all.
And the restaurant grew.
We grew,
You
yes.
expanded it, added on to it multiple times, right?
Multiple. I remember always being like, wait, what? What? No, we cannot handle that.
That's what I mean by the unpredictability of, Joe's willingness to just say, yeah, we're going to tear this wall down or build a roof over it. Or, I mean, that whole front part of Piglets where the bar is used to be outside.
Yeah, picnic tables outside.
Who would think you could even do that? And just say, we're just going to put a roof over it and build the bar here. And
totally.
It's crazy.
I know. And then, we got so much pushback. Of course, people loved being outside, but, he would always be like, okay, well, that's okay. We can have the accordion doors up front. So it's all, open air. So you feel like you're outside, but when you get those summer rainstorms, not everybody's running into the back room.
Yep.
So, yeah. But yeah, it was great. I always was very skeptical every time he was wanting to expand or maybe scared.
Or open a new restaurant or whatever.
Yes. I was always like, what?
Did you ever want to get or have interest in getting involved in the other restaurants?
Oh, yes, for sure.
But for a while, you said earlier, you were just at Mary Piglets, right?
Yes. I was that's where my heart and soul is still. Mary Piglets. It's in my blood.
Yeah, you were in my phone as Tracey Piglets for a long time.
I'm sure a lot of people's phone as that. That's even now when I meet people and they're like, what do I know you from? I'm always like, Piglets. And they're just like, yep. So, which is great. I love that, actually, because that's the stability for me. That's my security blanket, Mary Piglets, basically. So.
Do you still get to spend a lot of time there?
I think, yes, not as much probably, because I kind of had to distance myself because I just am a control freak and I would just take over. But it's in another manager's hands now, so I need to
and people
respect
will
that.
By default go to you to answer questions.
1,000%.
Yeah. So you kind of have to force that physical separation a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you miss that role, being? I remember when we made that change, and at the time you were kind of not unhappy, but you were ready for a change, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
But do you ever miss just the simplicity of just being at one restaurant all the time?
Well, that is what is so great. I can do that in where I'm at now. I worked at Sidewinders on Saturday. I can just go in and pick up manager shifts and work the floor and be with the staff and the customers and still get that.
What do you enjoy about that? The restaurant manager role?
Everything. I enjoy the people, I guess, the most.
Customers or
Customers
staff?
and staff.
Both.
Yes, 100%.
Do you find yourself, a lot of the conversations I have with with our management teams, every manager works the floor a little differently, and I feel some people are more customer oriented and wanting to be hands-on, touching tables that, and some people are more staff oriented. That's how I was as a restaurant manager, because I'm kind of introverted and I don't know, I don't feel as comfortable going and I would just, I guess, prefer to make sure I'm supporting the staff rather than directly to the customers. Did you ever How would you say you operated?
I think when I started out, I was like that, very much staff, like just all about helping them and facilitating the best work environment for them. But I have evolved a lot. And I mean, I think it's from being at Piglets and just like we would have customers that would come back year after year every summer and just be like, oh my God, yes, you're still here. Like, thank God. And, you know, and like I ended up like getting married and having 2 baby girls. But like I still have customers like asking, because I worked the whole time I was pregnant until like I was in labor. So people would like be like, well, how old are your kids now? Like they just feel like they know me.
Yeah.
And like that helped me like parlay into being more customer oriented.
Yeah. Because you had those relationships and like just those interactions with people that, I mean, because you kind of became like the face of the restaurant.
Yes.
In a lot of ways.
Totally.
Just due to that consistency and always being there.
Right. I mean, even now, like when I'm there, they're still like, I'm usually there for 4th of July because it's just crazy. And there are customers that come every 4th of July. And even this past summer, and they were like so excited that I was still there. So.
What do you think? Mary Piglets has been open for over 50 years now.
Yes.
Like, what do you think makes that restaurant so special?
I mean, I don't know. It's like a constant, I think. It's like the food's amazing. And just like we have like so much of the same staff. And I think that's like comforting to people. And I mean, I feel like for a long, when I was there, I mean, I think like I'm the reason that like a lot of people kept coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, staff and customers.
Right.
I mean, not to toot my own horn, but
no, but it trickles down. I mean, and you've got especially if you have staff, as you did. And I want to like dive into this a little bit, but like you had a staff at Mary Piglet's front house and back house that were there for a long time.
Yep.
Like you would see the same waitresses, the same cooks, the same bartenders, and that was a big part of, like, to your point, just the consistency, customers wanting to come back and interact with the same people. It's like a comfort feeling where you walk in and see the same faces. As a restaurant manager and leader, like, how do you, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't like strategic, or maybe it was, but like looking back on those times, what do you think helped develop the culture of that restaurant where you had people, you know, like MB and Krista and all those girls that like wanted to stick around for so long?
Well, I mean, just like I think they just knew how much I cared, like, about them, and Joe and Denise did too. Like, I think that was what, like, was the driving force. Like, helping them out whenever they needed it. Like, just being there for them. And, like, it was hard in the beginning to be, like, friends with, like, your staff and have that relationship. And then also, you know, okay, but now we're at work. Like, this is business. So, I mean, I did struggle with that in the beginning.
How so?
Well, like, in the winter, there was like just like this group of like girls, and we all hung out together and like lived together and went snowboarding together. And it's just this one winter, I remember, like, it was just dumping all the time. So like a lot of times the girls would be like late or bail on a powder day, and like I would have to like deal with that.
Pick up the slack.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, it was like Joe really like helping me, like, okay, you can be like friends, but they need to respect you also, and the company, or I mean, at that time it was only Piglets. And so, I mean, I did struggle with like standing up and saying like, hey, this ain't cool.
One of the things that I think a lot of our managers struggle with is like that process of accountability, where like you want to hold them accountable, you want to, you know, improve overall performance, but you don't want to like alienate your people. can you remember like anything in particular that you would do to hold your staff accountable if they bailed on you on a powder day or whatever? And then at some point you were able to gain traction on that, and maybe not, I mean, you never stop having those problems altogether, but you minimize them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just think like just being like straight up and honest with them, like, because we were friends, and I was just like, you doing that is screwing me over, and hurting me. So I need this to be like a mutual respect thing. Like, I'm always going to try and help you, but I need you to help me too.
Yeah.
So, and then I just like even evolve from that, like with like future employees. Like I was like not like friends with, they were like high schoolers or going off to college, coming back. Like we didn't like hang out, but like they knew that I would help them if they needed a shift covered or whatever they needed. And I knew that I can count on them to call them in to do a shift.
Yeah, so like having those underlying relationships were kind of crucial to be able to leverage the accountability towards performance.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we try to communicate, like with the leadership pyramid on the manager scorecard and all that, the importance of developing relationships so that you can leverage them when you need to, whether it's you need to call in a favor or you need to hold somebody accountable, and they need to understand that like this is deeper than just me as your manager writing the schedule expecting you to show up. It's like if you don't do it, then it impacts somebody, right? And more often than not, it's it's your manager, and ideally that's a person that you have a relationship with that you value.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't always like unicorn and rainbows, like kumbaya. Right. Like, I mean, sometimes I would go off the rails and just like, I was like a tyrant, and then I had to like, because I went like extreme. So then I was like, nope, like total bitch. Like, nope, you screwed me over too many times. So then it was like really trying to find that happy medium where it's like, no, I'm in charge and this is the way it's going to be, but also be able to like have fun with them.
What do you mean? Like when you went off the rails, like just firing people or?
No, just like being like a bitch.
Mean to them.
Mean. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. I have that side.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tough thing to balance because it's like, you don't want it to keep happening.
Yeah.
You want to correct their action, but learning how to do it in a tactful and positive, constructive way is tough for all of us.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it was like when I was younger, like I just didn't have patience for that. But it's like after I had kids, like it's like you kind of have to have patience. Just like, all right. And that's all really the staff was, a bunch of kids. And that's what I look at them like, okay, they're all my kids. Well, I mean, not their mom, maybe their cool aunt or cool older sister, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they just need direction. I mean, we use, whether it's parenting or like, we'll use the analogy of like coaching a sports team, for managers of like, that's kind of the tact or the direction you can take with the staff to be, like an effective coach on a sports team or an effective parent, like has to still be a disciplinarian at some level.
Exactly.
You can't just like always be their best friend.
No. And it's like my like nickname was, it still is T-Bone, but a lot of like the staff, like when I'm like start to get into that mode, like my handle on Instagram's Bossy Bone, and they're like, oh, Bossy Bone in the house. Oh no, Bossy Bone's here. Because they know like, okay, like Tracey's in boss mode, so don't mess around.
Yeah. Well, it's a testament to you that you were able to balance that and still maintain great relationships with those people, because everybody's still well, maybe not everybody, but I think the people that mattered have looked back and have really fond memories of working with you, and even the people that that you still work with, of course. Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, I mean, I do still like all of the old school pickup girls. We're still all like friends. Try and get together like once a month.
Yeah, Denise just told me that recently, that you guys are like still going out and having dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
They're even tossing around the idea of like picking up a random shift or whatever.
Yes, we were going to do a throwback night.
That'd be hilarious.
And just like have all the old school crew. I mean, I think like we would be so busy.
Yeah. I mean, customers would come in just to see you guys.
For sure. Like we used to cut these radio ads whenever like we would do our 2-for-1 fajita specials, and like we would all go in and do it, and it was like hilarious. And we'd be like, we're back, like all in unison, and we were going to do one of those commercials on the radio, and everybody will be like, shut the fuck up. Yes, let's go.
Yeah, that needs to be like a reality TV show.
I know, we would always say that. We should have a reality show. But then Vanderpump Rules comes in, and
I don't know what that is.
it's like a reality show based in like Hollywood at like a bar. Like it's like a restaurant bar.
Well, a reality TV show
Oh
called...
my God, I'm so sorry, everybody. He doesn't know what Vanderpump Rules is.
Yeah, sorry. But I can tell you the Mary Piglets as a reality TV show would be better. And I have no idea what that is, but it would have to be better.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, at some point, those girls and the people, that worked at Piglets forever moved on.
Yes. Got real jobs in quotation marks.
You definitely can't. Working in a restaurant's not a real job.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So what was that transition like? And did that impact your decision to like move on into a different role in the company, or?
Yeah, I think for sure. Like I was kind of like, okay, like everybody's off changing the world and I'm just slinging tacos. But so
those tacos do change the world.
That's true. Valid. So yeah, I just wanted to like do something else. I was like kind of stagnant. And we always, like Joe and I always talked about like, oh, he would have multiple restaurants and I would be like district manager of all the managers. Like that was always in like the pipeline since day whatever, one. Yeah. So.
But you ended up staying exclusively at Piglets more or less. I mean, I know you jumped around and you'd help out when they opened Ignite or
oh yeah, for sure.
Whatever, but more or less, but you were still like the GM at Piglets until what, like not that long ago?
No, like 2019.
Well, really?
Yeah. Because it was just like we just didn't have like anybody to take over Piglets. To pay Piglets, also pay me. Yeah. Just like the logistics. It wasn't like the want, but it was more like the how.
Yeah. And you'd also taken on like there was Dolce and then Liberty Burger.
Oh yeah.
That were really kind of under the same roof. So you were directly and heavily involved in both of those concepts.
Right. I was like GM of both of those.
So your role had expanded past just being at Mary Piglets.
Yeah.
By that point.
Still same address though.
Right. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, like the staff, a lot of that long-term staff ended up moving on. Not all of them, but a lot of them did. And Mary Piglets, the culture there kind of remained the same though. Like you guys, Mary Piglets was known for this. I think even when we did the rebrand package, a couple of years ago, like we talked about how lively and fun and energetic it was. And a lot of that was kind of developed by you and all those long-term employees, but then continues on today, even though you're not there every day and you have a whole new staff and everything. So.
Right. I mean, I just, like, we would always do, like, dress up days and just, like, try and make it so fun working there. Like, wear your tutu. Like, every holiday you had to come dressed up or, like, you would have to deal with me. So everybody would, like, participate. And it was just, like, fun. And, yeah, the older, like, old school Piglet girls have moved on, but we just like had these high schoolers that worked there, even when those girls worked there, and they were like grew up and they just kind of evolved into those roles as, the servers, and they would come back from college and
Yep.
always work.
Girls that I went to high school with worked there, started as a host and then kind of moved up the ranks into serving, or Ellie and Brooke and Nicole. I mean, these girls looked up to you guys.
Yeah.
You were role models for them. And so you kind of set that example of like, hey, here's how to have a good time working in a restaurant and make a great impact on the customers and everything. And that just sort of translated to the next generation.
Yeah,
It's really
exactly.
cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And then even Devin, that is managing it now, started as a server.
Yeah.
And kind of like worked up. And she, carries on that tradition of like dressing up for the holidays and like decorating the place, and which is great.
Yeah. How did that translate into like your involvement at the other restaurants?
Like her taking over?
No. I mean, like your background of working at Mary Piglet's and that culture of that individual location. Do you think you intentionally carried that over into Sidewinders and Bubba's and other places, or they all
I tried.
different?
They're all different though.
Yeah.
So, I still try. Like I'm working on Friday, St. Patrick's Day, and I've already notified the staff, like up at Sidewinders, that they better not come in uniform and they better come green, or they're going to
Send them home,
or they're out of there. So, I try and like bring that to the other places. I think it's just like my personality too. So it just organically, when I'm here, is gonna be like that.
That's what people say about me too. They're just like, you're
really?
so bubbly and
Are you sure?
funny and
I want to meet these people, please.
No, that is who you are, and it's a really impactful part of you being a leader in this company and the organization. And like, I think a lot of that stems into like what our core values are, and being kind to people, and the loyalty aspect. I mean, you have been with Joe and Denise for 28 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for, and it's not just you. I mean, that's hugely impactful, but there's a lot of people in the company that have been around for a long time.
Double digits, lots.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, that's what I mean by like, you guys being a big part of establishing the core values of the company, which are like, it's cool now that they're on paper.
Right,
It's like we've actually defined why those things are valuable. But yeah, loyalty is a big part of it. Kindness, inclusiveness. Those are things that I think can be sort of traced directly back to your involvement here.
I agree. You're welcome, everybody.
What is like, how is the lifestyle or your day-to-day changed, thinking back to being a single location restaurant manager to what you're doing now, from the company being one or two locations to 11 restaurants now, starting tonight with the new Sidewinders. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, like, it's awesome now. I have like a lot more flexibility. Like when I was only at Piglet's, it was just me.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like any shit hit the fan, they were like calling me. But we lived above Piglet's, so it was like,
gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I moved into the apartment above Piglet's with the girls, and I was like a single mom for like a long time. So it was like great because it was convenient to be right there and be putting out those fires while, just dragging these two toddlers around with me. But it was also like, I don't know.
It was a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's like you never can escape.
Yeah. And that was the structure of the organization for a long time. Even when I started in 2013, was like every restaurant had one manager.
Right.
Right? It
One
was like,
manager only.
yeah,
Yes,
you're
like
in
Tennille
charge.
was only
Yeah.
at Sidewinder. It's
Yeah,
like,
I remember Tennille trained me at Sidewinders
Yeah.
because I took over after she was getting ready to have her first daughter,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, it was like you said, like if there was a fire to put out, it like landed on your plate.
Yeah. I mean, looking back now, it's like amusing. Like, it's like, how the hell did we even do that? It's like crazy.
I'm glad that change has occurred, though.
Oh,
you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Like, it needed to.
I mean, I think it was a necessary part of, you know, the evolution of the business, and it was good for, in a lot of ways, it was good for those of us that did, you know, deal with that type of those responsibilities, that scale of responsibility, because it was drinking from a fire hose. You know, it was like you learned really quickly, and you know, for people that were willing to take on that responsibility, I don't think we could have. I know personally, I feel like I couldn't have developed or advanced as fast as I did without being in that type of structure.
Oh no, totally. I agree for sure.
But there was, you know, it's not really enjoyable in a lot of ways. And,
No.
And in terms of quality of life, I think we've moved that needle in the right direction.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, it's great now. Like, I'm like so happy for the managers now, because they do have, like, not that I didn't have a good quality of life.
Right.
Like, I did.
Yeah.
Like, Joe
Yeah,
and
same
Denise
here.
always
Yeah.
took care of me and the kids. But it's just like that, you know, weekends off, or, you know,
Yeah.
anything. But I mean, I had a great quality of life. I was able, like, the flexibility, like, I did not miss one of my kids' shows ever at school or anywhere.
Yeah, and that was like Joe and Denise flexing to, you know, being flexible to fill in, or the other people that worked alongside you and the rest of us during those years. Like, you just, you know, had to lean on each other to figure it out.
Totally.
What advice would you give now to, like, you know, people that are just starting in that role or starting in the restaurant business? I mean, you started as a host at the Wart. You've worked in the kitchen, obviously, for 2 weeks at Bubba's, but you also worked in the kitchen a lot at Mary Piglet's. Waitressing, managing, bartending, whatever. Like,
Embrace the suck. Like, it just is like hard, and it's like there's growing pains, but it's like worth it. Really, like, as far as like people like in this company, like, it's like so amazing to work for this company. So
when you say embrace the suck, like, we touched on this earlier, but a lot of people look at working in restaurants as like, well, it's a stepping stone job, or like eventually I have to leave and get a real job. And I think that's something that we've been pretty focused on, trying to improve that reputation or change that reputation of that, you know, this can be a career. It's been a career for you. It's a career for me. How do you think, like, how would you define how we're like kind of moving that needle, or like, do you see the impact translating to anybody?
well, I just think like everybody that works for the company now, managers especially, like, they still have that flexibility. We go above and beyond to help get their shifts covered, or if they want to go out of town, they have an emergency, anything. We're like, now, like, they're kind of spoiled because they have the leadership team that's like they can lean on. Whereas like before, we didn't really have anybody.
Right.
You know, it was like Joe and Denise and us, like, down in the pit, you know? So, but like, embrace the suck. Like, yeah, sometimes you're going to have to go in on your day off or on the holiday or at night, even though you worked all day. Yeah, you're going to have to go back, and it's like 2 hours, and it's like worth it.
Yeah. Do you think it's, two questions, like, do you think it's a good thing, over like net positive, that we have like that leadership team in place that managers or staff can lean on? And secondly, like when you talk about maybe you're going to have to go on your day off or whatever, what impact do you think that had in your career with the relationships? Like going back to what we talked about earlier, like, when people see you coming in on your day off, like that's meaningful to them, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like that point you made earlier of like, I'm going to take care of them, going to take care of your staff. And so that helps build that relationship.
Yeah, they knew they can always count on me. Like even like with the kitchen, if they were short, boom, I'm coming in. I'm going to work the line with you.
Yeah, that's something that Alex and I talked about too in our conversation last week, was just how he's uniquely capable of stepping in and working in any one of our kitchens. He's like our back of house operational powerhouse, right? And that was a necessary part of his role as a leader, and really like strengthening those relationships that he has leveraged and continues to benefit from, because he was always that guy that like he wasn't going to allow a kitchen to run short. He would just come in and work.
Exactly.
And that's not an easy decision to make. You've got to have incredibly strong work ethic, as you both do. But it kind of sucks in the short term where you have to like sacrifice maybe your night off or some other activity that you had planned to come into work. But in the long term, like what was the long-term impact of making those decisions for you as a restaurant manager and leader?
Well, yeah, I mean, you do sacrifice, but the long term is the relationships, really. Like that's why anytime, back in a house, front of the house, like former staff comes through town, they always stop, like, text me, call me, try and see me. Like, let's go to happy hour. Let's go get together, catch up. So, like, it's worth it for that alone.
Yeah, I think that's the power of lead by example, right? That like you're always willing to, step in and do the things that nobody else wants to do. But over time, that really strengthens the relationships, and I think is in large part of what has allowed us to scale, to so many restaurants that we have now, and the bigger team and everything, is that we have like a carrying capacity of leaders that exhibit that lead by example type of mentality.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Sorry.
Well, I just want to circle back because you gave me a two-part question of having the leadership team.
Yeah, do you think that's a good thing? Or
I think it's both. I think it's like
cons?
double-edged sword. Like it's great that they have that to lean on, but then like sometimes some of them lean too much on it, whereas they're not problem solving themselves. Like if they didn't have us there to like bail them out, like they would figure it out on their own. But it's kind of like the knee-jerk reaction to like, oh, let me call Tracey, let me call Brian, like let's see, and like reach out to us before they like, okay, let me see if I can figure this out. Like that should be the last resort.
Though, it's like we obviously have a leadership team in place for a reason.
Yeah.
To support and advise restaurant managers. But yeah, you hope that they are, I guess that there's some threshold of like problem solving, like to your point, or initiative or whatever that has to, like they have to check that box before leaning on the support side.
Yeah, which I think like in the beginning they weren't checking the boxes, and now like we've just kind of keep telling, okay, did you try this? Did you try that? And now they are like naturally, like most of them, doing everything they can first before calling us.
Yeah, we at the leadership team level, and particularly in operations, we talk about sort of the primary objective of that role is to support and advise the restaurant management team. But really that's like two sides of a scale, right? It's like you have to, either be like the support would be like, hey, okay, I'm coming in and helping fill a gap, or I'm picking up slack one way or the other. And advisory role would be more like forward thinking, more like proactive, not hands off necessarily, but like you're working through the management team. Like, do you feel like you're balanced one way or the other?
I think it really depends, like, on who it is that's calling me, honestly. Like, if I feel like certain managers are calling, like, I know, like, okay, they need me there, like, my presence.
Mm-hmm.
And others, like, I feel like I can, like, walk through and, like, talk them into solving the problem and give it them, like, you know, suggestions to solve the problem.
You think that's just an experience thing, or?
I think it's a personality thing. I mean, I think obviously it is experience too, but like some people could be working 10 years and still like need that like presence.
Yeah, and some people are there for 10 days and they're like, I got it.
Exactly.
Like, just walk me, just
for sure.
give me the advice and let me handle the problem.
Yep.
Yeah, that's another thing Alex and I talked about is just like the value of initiative in a team member.
Yeah.
That's like, I guess it is their personality. I mean, it's definitely not something you can like teach
and you
them.
just know right away. You can just see like, okay, this person has the drive, like they're going places. And it's like seeing that and then like nurturing that and like moving that through the channels in the company.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the people that have found success in our culture, that's pretty much a unanimous common trait. Mm-hmm. You definitely have it where like, you know, you were not like unnecessarily independent, but you were definitely a person where, you know, Joe and Denise, if there was a problem, like they could confidently hand that to you and you would just say, yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Alex is that way. Jeremy is that way. Brian's that way. Nicole's that way. So it's like, I mean, everyone I can think of has a good amount of that in them, you know? So that's kind of a good
You're
indicator.
that way.
Yeah, I like to think so.
Sort of. You need to be babied sometimes.
Yeah. I got delicate features.
Are you going to cut that out, Marcus? Please don't.
There's no cuts. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good indicator and hopefully a guide to people that want to find success in our organization is like, take the initiative.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe has said that for as long as I've known him. Like,
yes.
Good initiative, bad judgment, right?
Yeah.
It's like we'd so much rather you take the initiative and make a mistake than just to like sit on your hands and ask somebody else, like, I don't know what to do.
Exactly. But I think like a lot of people have that fear of like, well, what if I fuck it up? Like, what if that, like, I do that and it's like, I get in trouble, you know, but that's like what.
There's no precedent for that.
Exactly.
Though.
Like, that's what Joe and Denise are so great. Like, you're not going to get in trouble. Like, you know, you're going to do it and it's like, okay.
Yeah, if anything, you'll get in trouble for not
like,
taking the initiative.
I can't remember that saying, like, apologize later, ask permission.
Better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I learned that from you in a lot of ways. Like, you know, over the years of working together, it was like, just when I was like learning how to manage a restaurant, and you were at the time the most experienced. Well, you still are, but you were still a restaurant manager, right? When like I was managing Sidewinders or whatever, and you're at Piglets, like I would definitely take advice or direction, or just kind of look at how you would handle certain problems. And a lot of times you were just like, yeah, I mean, you know, not like what Mama doesn't know doesn't hurt her or whatever, but it was like, you know,
it's Daddy. What Daddy doesn't know.
Yeah. But. Yeah, sometimes you would do things like not necessarily having to ask for permission to make decisions.
I'll be like, it's fine.
Yeah.
Joe's out of town. Don't worry about it. Just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, that can get you into trouble too, for sure. If you if you take that too far. But
for sure. And I'm sure I have gotten in trouble in the 20-some years.
Sure. Yeah, we both
lots
have.
of times.
But again, like we're still here.
Yeah,
you know,
we learned from it,
and those are lessons that you can learn in a constructive way, and you know, like I said earlier, like Joe would say, good initiative, bad judgment, or he'd rather give you the reins than the spurs or whatever. You know, it's like those are definitely the types of people that I think succeed in. This isn't true for every company, but in our environment.
I agree.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because I think we need those types of people in order to continue to grow, and that's an important aspect of what we do. You know, it's like just being able to say yes to new opportunities, to open new restaurants, to expand the business, whatever. You need people that are willing to like take a risk and go out and just solve problems.
For sure. And like listening to people, like that's where like I feel like a lot of us are great at. Like somebody has an idea, we're not just going to shoot them down. It's like, okay, sure, let's try it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love those, like, when those things really come, like, follow through, and I don't know, like, I think those are great success stories, when you see somebody's creative idea make an impact.
Yeah, for sure.
On a restaurant or on a menu or whatever.
Exactly.
You know? So we're getting ready to open a new restaurant. Tonight's the first night of soft opening.
Lord help us. Pray for us.
Yeah, pray for you. I leave Wednesday.
Oh, snap.
No, but I mean, I think it's really exciting. It's the third Sidewinders location. How does that feel, like, looking back to 1994 or 5 or whatever, when you started working for Joe and Denise, to now, you know, stamping out a third Sidewinders? Like, where do you think all this is headed?
Oh, man, we're taking over the world, people. Like, I mean, everybody, like, a lot of people say that, like, oh, Joe taking over the town. I'm like, no, not just the town, Bozeman too, and stay tuned.
Yeah, the whole Rocky Mountain West.
Exactly. I mean, I think it's awesome. And it just, like, goes to show, like, how, like, the community, like, buys into, like, our brand.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, like, so many people are so excited about this. And it's like, why wouldn't they be? Because we're like a successful company, and you know, we're like blue collar for a reason. We're taking care of our community, the like working folk.
Yeah.
We're not like, you know, elitist at all. We are like down to earth, like, and everybody knows that. So it's like great. Like, it's like so many restaurants, so many different concepts, but it's still like the bones of it are still Piglets. You know, like, it's still like that family feel, like, good vibe. It doesn't matter where you are.
I think that's been one of the big challenges in Bozeman for us, is like trying to not replicate, but I guess like build off of that reputation that the company has in Jackson, because there's just no replacement for 30 years of, you know, starting from mom and pop, you know, at Piglets to what it is today. Like, people still in this community have a memory of what, you know, what this company was in, you know, when it was just a single restaurant, right? And when we opened in Bozeman, it was like right away we started with this giant Sidewinders, and people knew that it was a restaurant group and stuff. And so trying to like establish that reputation in a town that we didn't grow up in, that we didn't, you know, spend 30 years building a company in, it's definitely been a challenge.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like here, you know, everybody knows Joe and Denise, and then like the girls like grew up in the company, and now they're the faces of blue collar. So it's like the whole community watched them grow up, watched them play soccer, and they know them. Their kids know them. And now it's like, you know, even me, like, growing up, and now I have kids, and now my girls work at Liberty Burger. It's like insane. But that feeling, that I could see that being hard to replicate.
Yeah. Yeah, like Joe and I talked in our podcast about how, you know, there were people that he would interact with as customers whose kids are now coming in as customers with their kids.
Yes.
You know, and like, yeah, we're now impacting like could be like 3 generations of customers. And we pointed out that some of those kids are working in the restaurants now.
Yes,
you know,
that is like another thing. Like, but even like when I was working at Piglets, and these families would come in all the time, and then when those little kids were in high school and then they came for a job, it's like insane. It's like, oh my God, I've known you since you were like born. This is crazy.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I guess you touched on this a little bit earlier, but it started with Piglets. It's expanded to a bunch of different restaurants in terms of locations and in individual location brands. They're all a little different. They all attract a little bit of a different clientele, but they're covered by like the blue collar umbrella. What is it? And we can kind of close on this if you want to, but like, what do you hope as, I think, the longest term employee of this company, that you've put a life's worth of work and energy and investment into? Like, what do you hope for as like the legacy of, what blue collar can leave behind, 100 years from now? Like, what's on our tombstone?
R.I.P. I think just like the heart, like it's all about like family for me, and like I feel for the company, like that you feel like you're at home no matter which restaurant you're in. Like, it's like, that's how I feel when I go to Piglets. Like, I'm coming home.
Yeah.
So I just hope that stays, like that DNA stays in like all of the restaurants. And I believe it will, like, because it is a family run business, I mean, like Reagan and Harper and Tucker are going to be Tucker's going to be doing podcasts, in 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, like the next restaurant that we have plans to open would be a Mary Piglets in Bozeman.
I know.
Which will be really exciting. I mean, we've stamped out Sidewinders now 3 times, but to replicate the original concept, the original blue collar restaurant is going to be a really exciting project. And can't wait to have you involved in that too, because, I mean,
You say that now until I'm up there and you're going to be wanting to do something fancy. I'm going to be like, hell no. Piglets is all about the ghetto.
It's all you. We'll take all the direction from Tracey.
Have some, ghetto booty in there. It is 100%.
Well, anything else you wanted to touch on or close on or anything like that?
No, I mean, I don't know. I could just keep talking for hours.
We could do this, but we're an hour in, and I know that.
What? I got a restaurant to open.
We're trying to open a restaurant today, so I think we got our hands full.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
It was so much fun. I'll be a returning guest. Don't worry, people.
Yeah, you
Stay
will
tuned.
definitely be back. Stay tuned for our podcast on
T-Bone Part 2. Click,
brainstorming the opening of Mary Piglets Bozeman, because Tracey, you're in charge.
Yay!
Awesome.
Wait, I'm semi-retired.
Yeah, I've heard that before. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Right. Peace.
See ya. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Service First Podcast. Join us on our mission to spread the word and inspire others to lead with a service first mindset by sharing this episode with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Service First Podcast on your favorite platform. We can't wait to connect with you and continue this important conversation about service, community, and leadership.